Hi guys, welcome to On the DL with Dak and Lam.
We're here to show you the practical approach to health and fitness.
So today, guys, we want to cover the menstrual cycle. Even though, we as women only go through it, men have to unfortunately deal with us during this cycle. So I think it's a really important topic for us to cover because it is everywhere on social media. A lot of people post about it, and it's from all different angles, but it has, the last 6 months become really popular to talk about, which I think is amazing because obviously we're trying to educate people. But I think one of the things that I don't like, which I was talking to Lam previously about, is that I'm not a huge fan of how it is portrayed as black and white, or as this is what everyone should do. This is what everyone should feel like.
Yeah, that's right. Look, it's just like with everything else, isn't it? Your body shapes are all different. Our genetics dictate a lot of things. Then our environment plays in. There's so many different factors that affect how our body works. You can't imagine that every single female is going to go through exactly the same symptoms at exactly the same time. I mean, our cycle lengths vary, our period lengths vary, all sorts of things play in, from polycystic to endometriosis to whether or not you've been on the oral contraceptive, Implanon, all of these sorts of different things. So I think today our goal really is just to give a simplified version of what you can potentially affect depending on your situation, right? Like, if you're natural, this is what will likely happen. But if you're natural and you have a hormone deficiency or a hormone imbalance, it won't happen this way.
Yeah. And some months you can go for a year and have really smooth, consistent periods, and then you can, the next year it can be a completely different scenario. And I guess it's about what things affect that. Typically, a normal period should go smoothly. You should, have some mild discomfort, but it shouldn't be like, I need to stay in bed for this week. Like the world shouldn't have to stop. I guess I think that's a huge indicator that if you need to change your entire day or your entire week when you do have your period, then there's something going on that should probably be seen to.
100%. And it's not always easy to figure these things out, but a lot of the time it gets passed on by general health practitioners. So partly because I think women play it down a little bit. Women will go into the doctor with an issue, but then they'll sort of be like, oh, I think it's just normal period pain. It's like, well, no, if you're if you're lying at home and you can't move for 24 hours, that's not normal period pain. But to be fair, some girls have only ever had that experience. So if that's been your experience period, how would you know any different? So kind of easy for these things to get passed over. The term dysmenorrhea is the one that I use to describe this. It is the term for it. But dysmenorrhea is sometimes a symptom of something bigger, or sometimes it is the issue in itself. So say, for instance, if you have always had painful periods, you may very well have a functional problem. So you may have endometriosis that's been undiagnosed, or you may only have certain symptoms of endometriosis, so no one's looked any further. But if you're having recurring severe symptoms, cramping, headaches, really being knocked out, having mood swings, noticing that every time your estrogen is high, you become inflamed, or you get discomfort in either your uterus or the areas around your uterus, then you probably want to start looking into it a bit deeper and saying, could it be this, could it be that? Then we've got polycystic ovarian, which affects our androgens, or potentially affects our androgens, not with every patient. And in that case, we're also going to have a hormonal imbalance, but it's a different one that we're looking at. So first of all, we have to isolate what's causing the problem. And sometimes it's as simple as you're eating a lot of junk food and your body's inflammatory, and you just need to stop eating a lot of junk food and get all of these anti-inflammatory components coming into your diet, and then we win. Other times, again, we have to look further, figure out whether or not there is a something behind it and then address that, because treating the symptoms is not going to do anything if the core reason that you're getting that pain is still there at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, like, I guess with anything, you know, the symptoms are never really the cause. And that's with anything. Like, you've got pain in your hip. Chances are it's probably not your hip causing your hip pain. Same, you know, it kind of works in all areas of life, really. Like, I think if you're in pain, regardless of the pain itself, I think you can't just ignore it. You can't, if it gets to a point, like you were saying, you know, you've got to kind of look at it and go, okay, well, cool. Like, why is this period worse than the last one? And I think a lot of people forget that the period, it's not just like a menstrual cycle, and, you know, the cycle itself isn't just the period. Like, it's not like you just bleed for that week and you have to prepare for that week and that's it. Like, it's so much more than that. Like, your brain and, like, I mean, everything is connected and everything gets affected, unfortunately.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. To give it a really basic rundown, a natural cycle will start on day 1 of your period. You'll generally bleed for 3 to 5 days on average, some people longer, some people shorter. During that period, day 1 and day 2, you can and should experience some swelling, discomfort, you know, that sort of jazz. But by day 3 of your period, all of that should have sort of calmed down. At this point, your progesterone and your estrogen are quite low, and then across the next week and a half, your estrogen will pick up, and it will peak just before you ovulate. Around ovulation, again, you'll probably experience some distension, some slight pain, or a feeling of swelling or bloating. That's totally normal. But if it's putting you in bed for the day, absolutely not normal, and you need to reach out and go and see somebody. After we ovulate, estrogen stops being our dominant hormone. So it's dropped down a little bit. Progesterone now becomes our dominant hormone because, as the name suggests, it's progestational. So if we have fallen pregnant during ovulation, the progesterone is rising to help us stay pregnant. Progesterone can be a little bit of fun in terms of symptoms. So when we have a rise in progesterone and our estrogen is lower, so we're still producing estrogen at this point, by the way, guys, it's just not as high as it was prior to ovulation. When we're going through this phase, we expect to see the bowel slow down, a little bit of constipation potentially, which can also come with bloating. Fluid retention is really common. We get laxity in our joints, so training might be a little bit more of a challenge. Or you might be better off focusing on double-legged movements rather than single-legged movements that put you in a more vulnerable state, that sort of jazz. Then as the body figures out that it's not actually pregnant, then the progesterone will lower and we'll go through the whole cycle again. So there's certain things that we do expect as women. You know, ovulation, we're going to get pain. Premenstrual, we're going to get pain. Premenstrual, we're also most likely going to get super hungry. So progesterone doesn't help with that at all, whereas estrogen will actually suppress your appetite a little bit. So for the first 2 weeks or after day 2 of your period, you probably won't feel particularly hungry until ovulation. So it can be easier to make better decisions at the start of the month and harder to make better decisions later in the month. All of those sorts of things. But I think the thing that we wanted to point out, right, Dak, is that's a normal cycle. And how many of our clients have one of those these days?
No one. And I think like, I mean, I think a lot of people just ignore it. Like, they just kind of accept the symptoms, or they kind of just accept that their period is irregular, or they I don't know, maybe it's just too hard to figure it out. But I guess, you know, everyone's period is different depending, you know, like you said, it's 3 to 5 days. Some people only get 2, some people only get 1, some people get 7. You know, when I had major hormonal issues, I had a period that lasted 14 days. Like, it's, you know, I guess it's about education, because I think, like you said, with the symptoms that you've listed, that has an on-flow effect. Like, if you're somebody who's wanting to lose weight and you get your period and you see the scale rise up, you've got to think about, okay, cool, like, I haven't gone off plan, but what's actually happening inside of my fucking uterus? Like, what's happening in my body? Am I bloated? Then I probably should be heavier. Same as stress, lack of sleep. Like, you know, if you've got your period and, you know, for me personally, like training isn't affected for me, but I know people who just don't train at all during that time. So everyone's different, you know.
I reckon that's where birth control comes into it though as well. I think it's confusing for everyone, because when you're on a combined pill, basically your hormones are flatlined your entire month. You only bleed due to a withdrawal, right? So when we take those hormones away, you get a false bleed, but it's not actually a proper period.
It's not a proper,
So if you're talking to women who are on a combined pill and they're saying, oh, I don't notice any difference. Well, of course they don't notice any difference. They've got man-made manufactured hormones coming in to balance everything out. So it's about having more, excuse my cough, guys, I've just got asthma, I apologize. It's more about having transparent conversations with people. You know, you need to talk about the pros and cons of the pill, the pros and cons of being natural, the pros and cons of Marina, all of these things, and understand that everything's going to be the right choice for somebody, and that you might have to work to offset things down the track if you're using the pill or if you're using Marina or something along those lines. So it's until we start having really transparent conversations about our menstrual cycle, this is not going to get any better for people.
I just don't know why we don't. Like, I don't understand. I mean, it's gotten a lot better. Like, it's definitely gotten a lot better, but it's still coming from the side of this is what it should be like, or this is what it's like. It's not necessarily this is my experience. Like, this is what I experience personally. Like, and I'm using this, or I'm taking this, or I'm not taking anything. Like, I don't know. And like, I've seen, you know, some coaches who shame people for using contraception.
Oh yeah, that's
like, I mean, I would love to not take anything. I would love to take, like, but I don't want kids for another 2 years. So like, it's that give and take. Like, I'd love to not take it, but I know for me personally, in my current situation, like, that's just going to be easiest for me in my lifestyle. But everyone's different. And like, even non-hormonal contraception, like that's not even spoken about, like ever.
It's not. And I think, you know, there's a lot of fear around the way I see it is people don't talk about menstrual cycle for the same reason that they don't poop at work, right? Like, it's still,
who doesn't poop at work?
Oh, you would not believe it. So many people won't poop at work.
Actually, Zach's like that.
Yeah.
He doesn't like to poop in public. I'm like, mate, if I have to go, I don't care whose toilet it is.
I love it. But it's true. Like, the vast majority of people will think twice before going to the bathroom in a public place. And it's because we do associate it with being dirty or taboo or topics that you don't converse about these things over the kitchen table, sort of thing. And until it gets really normal like that, these things are not going to get picked up. Because when you say, I'm feeling bloated, and someone says, oh, are you due your period? Automatically they go, oh, you're fine then. Like, there's no further to that, because it's kind of like, this is not a topic that we want to broach. I think, I don't know. It's a tricky one. People, you're right. People do feel a bit judged as well now. Like, if they're on oral contraceptives, they feel like they shouldn't tell you about it. And as a natural practitioner, I need to know. Like, I really
kind of have to know that information.
That's right.
Like, I think it's definitely improved. Like, I've definitely had conversations with clients in the gym, and I think it's come up a lot more that I've literally said out loud with males present, not in the same conversation, but in the same area. And I've gone, oh yeah, I've got my period. Like, I'm super bloated. And I haven't really felt that uncomfortable feeling that maybe you would if you did kind of present it to the world, I guess. Like, I think, and, you know, even putting it on social media and stuff, like I still remember, like, one of the very few times that I first put that I had my period, or that I've got my period, or anything about my period on my story. And it was just like, why are we ashamed about it? Even like, I remember when, this is a few years ago now, I used to go to the supermarket and I would be embarrassed to buy tampons. Like, I would be embarrassed. Like, how fucked up is that?
It is. It's
how weird.
Bizarre, but it's not uncommon. It's kind of like the condom thing, you know? It's like, yeah. It's almost like you're showing a piece of your life to people and you don't want them to have that inside info on you. It's an interesting psychological thing. But I think what's kind of confused everything is that doctors, and not all doctors, like I don't want to just put it across the board, but
no hate.
Yeah, a good percentage of doctors will use the oral contraceptive as a solution for problems that it's not a solution for. So if a patient goes in with dysmenorrhea, rather than looking at other interventions, what can we do to resolve the problem? They pop you on the oral contraceptive, which acts as a Band-Aid, covers it all up for the next
worry
5
about
years.
it later.
That's right. And then you come off wanting to fall pregnant and you've still got all of the same
you've got to go through that
you had beforehand. Yeah.
Do you think it's a lack of education, or do you think it's just a lack of communication between doctors and other health practitioners?
Both. I find it incredibly difficult to talk to any of my patients' general practitioners. I've got maybe 3 that will have a to and fro with me. But it's incredibly difficult to get them to listen to the whole, why don't we go preventative first and then reactionary later? Or why don't we see what we can do with their natural body before we basically... It's hormone replacement therapy, just in a much more appealing little package, you know. So
it's normalized, but it is hormone it's therapy. Like it is. I think it would be good if it was actually called that, because I feel like it would actually help people think twice before maybe just going on it.
That's right. Or the GPs should at the very least have to investigate why these things are happening before they get put on the oral contraceptive. I'm all for, you know, if people want to use the oral contraceptive as a contraceptive and that's why they've gone in to get it, that's their choice. Use it. I'll do what I can to offset the side effects, you know, that sort of jazz.
But not to fix something.
But not to fix it. That's right.
Or mask it.
That's right. If someone presents with dysmenorrhea, there is something wrong. And if they are family planning in the next 5 to 10 years, having been on the pill for 5, 7, 8, 10 years of that is going to make it more difficult to resolve, because we first have to wait for the cycle to come back. Then see if there's any abnormalities. Are you ovulating when you should be ovulating? You know, it just presents new challenges. Similar thing with Mirena, Implanon, all of that sort of does. Mirena, for me, I've always had better experiences with people coming off of Mirena going into family planning, but I don't know if that's just I got lucky.
Luck of the draw. I haven't actually, I find it very rare that my clients have the Mirena. Like, I find that it's not common. For me, I haven't met a lot of people. I find that it's more of a, from what I've gathered, like a more older generational, but it could be.
I think it's just more that I get a lot of patients who've got severe disorders in that area. So I'll get a lot of patients that are endo, or, you know, they have other issues that make Mirena the safest option for them, or the least most difficult option. And also a lot of women post-pregnancy will get put on the Mirena.
So, that makes sense.
It's interesting.
That makes sense.
But I think all it comes down to is having these sort of open conversations about your menstrual cycle, your options in terms of contraception, your options in terms of fertility, and what affects what before you make a clear-cut decision. Being
able to make an educated decision is huge. Like, I think the doctors should, I don't know if they should just be able to show you information on, you know, all of the ways that you could obviously not have children, or they should be able to send you to somewhere and so that you can just understand understand what it's going to do to your body. Understand what's going to do to your body when you have to come off of it. If you plan to go on it for a really long time, like I think it's when you think about it, it's like you're choosing to take a supplement or a hormone replacement pill for 10 years without even really understanding how it works.
That's right.
That's crazy.
I was on the oral contraceptive. I was on a combined pill, Levelin, the one that 90% of people are on. I was on Levelin for about 10 years in total, from the age of 15 to 25. I didn't have any issues with my period prior to that. I did go through amenorrhea later whilst I was on the oral contraceptive, but that was because I got my body fat very, very low for too long. That was my own fault, had nothing to do with anything menstrual. And it resolved itself very quickly.
Yeah.
Once I came off the oral contraceptive pill, that was when I noticed the symptoms that I had been having on the oral contraceptive pill. So
that you didn't really think twice about.
Exactly. So I had been becoming more anxious. I had had changes in my bowel movements. I had had more food sensitivities, all of that sort of jazz. But I hadn't linked the two together. And guys, to put this in perspective, at that age, I was a qualified nutritionist and I hadn't tied them together because it was me. When you look externally at other people, it's much easier to see a clear picture. So
you just shrug it off.
Yeah. Don't feel
it must be. I'm okay. Don't overreact. I'm okay.
Yeah.
That's what I've heard from a majority of people though. Like how you mentioned that you didn't really know what you were going through until the end. It's like a bad breakup, you don't really know that you're being mistreated until you leave. It's kind of like the pill, just a really fucked up relationship. That's what I've heard from a lot of people. They don't realize how it actually affected them until they're out of it. And I guess when you're on it for so fucking long, it's just normal. It's just normal for you to, be anxious or depressed or elevated. Like it's sad, I guess, that we don't realize.
No, that's it. But it's like chronic bloating, chronic pain. When you've had it for long enough, you stop noticing it. That is your new normal. It's only when you experience what you should feel like that you're able to then go back and reflect on what you were feeling like.
Yeah, it's such a complicated topic, and it's made more complicated because we're not comfortable or confident to talk about it. And it's a shame that it is shamed. I think we shouldn't be afraid, like even training on your period and stuff, like everyone's experience with that is different. And back when I was on the pill versus the Implanon, my symptoms were a lot worse, and my training, not that I was training seriously at all back then, but what training I did do, it was way more affected. And now, day one is generally the worst for me. Like I feel really sad. But apart from that, like, it's just like, oh, sweet, I've got my period. And then everything else is kind of normal. Whereas, I've had a client, I was having a conversation with a client the other day, and she said that she doesn't train at all. And I'm like, why not? She's like, oh, I just don't feel very good. I'm like, okay, like that's completely fine. And she asked me what I do. I'm like, well, I'm on the Implanon, and I feel fine. Like, even if I feel like shit, my schedule is a complete mess. And if I miss a training session, it ain't happening. So I just have to do it. And she actually trained, like that motivated her to actually train during her period. And she said she was fine. Like she thought she was weaker than she was. So I feel like it can be taken either way. You can either I'm a baby, like I'm not a baby, but like, I can't do anything. I need to sleep. I need to not do anything for a week. Like, I don't want anything to tip me over the edge. But then also we can kind of take it too far the other way and not talk about it at all.
Well, it's one way is a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Like if you believe that you're going to be weaker when you train, you will be weaker when you train. It's kind of, mind over everything. There's a lot of hormonal things that go on in your body that will affect you, yes, but typically, if you're in the right mindset, your mindset will get you through it. If for the people who do experience a little bit of like more fatigue, struggling to get motivated, go in and do something. It doesn't have to be your normal session. It can be
walk on the treadmill.
That's it. Just go in and do something, because going in and doing something will tick that box in your head and it'll say, I did something productive today. That alone will make you feel better about your choices, and that'll have a knock-on effect to other better choices. Same with food. If you wake up in the morning and you're feeling shitty, have a really good, healthy breakfast. Don't go to the craving type foods, because once you have had one good meal for the day, you're far more likely to choose another and another and another. If you start your day poorly, typically that's how it's going to play out, because these things are mental and self-fulfilling prophecies. The other extreme is what you were saying before, just never talking about it. So you never know whether or not what you're experiencing is normal or not. And so you just always hide away, and that's not going to win you anything either. But I think Dak and I were talking before this, and we knew that today was going to be an introductory kind of talk about, this is just kind of menstrual cycle 101. We know that this is super complicated, and after this video, we know everyone's going to want us to cover the specifics, and we fully intend to do that. So before we break your brains for today, I think we'll probably leave it there. Hey, Dak?
We'll aim to cover more. I mean, obviously, as you said, it's a very complicated topic, and I mean, we could dive into way more about it and all the intricacies, but like we don't have 4 hours. So I think, keeping it really simple, easy to understand, so everyone knows exactly what we're talking about. And then, in future episodes, we'll go into, training around it, more specific training, what people say you should do. And we can go in a little bit more in that. I'm very keen on that topic, actually. And everything else, like sleep and stress and stuff like that, like, endo and PCOS, like we can definitely go into more of that as well. But I guess the message we really wanted to put out is that the menstrual cycle, while it is obviously, it's science and it's hormones and stuff, everybody's body is different. Everyone's hormones can behave differently, can feel differently, and everyone's experience is different and needs to be validated. It needs to be spoken about, and it needs to be spreaded, and it needs to be educated.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We need to take the veil off, be more transparent about how we talk about it. If you've ever wondered whether or not your menstrual cycle is normal, talk to your girlfriends about it, see their experiences. If yours are significantly different to theirs, then it's probably a good idea to start asking the doctor, hey, should I be feeling this? Should I be feeling that? Just speak up. It's, no one's going to do it for you.
But thank you for watching, guys. If you have any questions, shoot them below. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.